Hi, I'm Don Harper reporting for Costa Mesa Brief, and today I'm here with Mike Buley, Costa Mesa City Council candidate. Welcome, Mike.
Good afternoon, Don. Hey, thanks for having me.
Mike, tell me what inspired you to run for City Council.
I've been living here 21 years. My kids have all gone to St. John the Baptist. I coached sports over there. I've been involved in the community. And in the 21 years I've been here, being immersed in the community, I've recently seen this explosion of cannabis shops. I've seen high-density development seeming like it's getting out of control. We have homelessness issues. When I raised my family here for 21 years, it was a family-oriented, safe environment, great place to raise my family, and I just didn't like seeing some of these areas of my city starting to deteriorate like that.
Mike, I know you're very connected to your neighborhood. Is some of the reason for running your neighbors and what your neighbors are saying about Costa Mesa?
For 21 years, my wife and I kind of pride ourselves in having a lot of friends over for barbecues and events and things like that. And like most people in the community, we just talk about issues, talk about things we're seeing. And I got to tell you, I was flattered when I put my name out there amongst my friends and a little humbled the support that I've got. And yeah, my neighbors have all talked about these issues. Where'd it go from just first approving retail cannabis shops to having this explosion of them? It seems like on every street corner. And okay, I understand that Sacramento has this housing element and they're demanding that we create more affordable housing, but now we've got one Metro West and thousands of doors going up, and it's impacting our infrastructure, and just traveling from one end of Harbor to the other now, the congestion it's just crazy. And all of these types of things, all my neighbors and I talk about, and like most people who are busy with their day-to-day jobs, you're like, well, what can I do about it? And I was, like I said, I was humbled when the neighbors came to me and said, hey, there's a seat opening up on City Council. This is your opportunity to serve, Mike. And that's kind of what got me going.
So your opponent, Adam Arith, who's on our planning commission, appointed by the majority council that has voted for all the issues that you just brought up, and I think he's in alignment with those issues. You know, he's for bike lanes, high density housing. I think he supported the Travel Lodge and the Motel 6 that they're converting to homeless housing. It's going to cost $100 million. Is that one of the,
I'm opposed to those issues, but you touch on what I think is one of my main motivations for running. I truly believe that in any large organization or governing body, you can't speak with a single voice, and to have good governance and to get to the best decisions and to represent your people the best, you need alternative viewpoints. And right now we've got a 7-member city council that includes the mayor. 6 of them are left or left-leaning, and the only voice right now that speaks some common sense and speaks some conservative viewpoints is yourself. And with you exiting the arena, somebody has to hold on to that seat to at least give voice to some of the common sense conservative thoughts out there. And along those lines, yes, if Adam, and I don't know the guy, he may be a nice guy, but everything I understand, he's absolutely politically aligned with the other 6 members that currently are on the city council. And quite frankly, if Sacramento comes up with an idea for bike lanes or high-density housing or how to address the homeless by throwing money at more housing for that as opposed to addressing the problem, we don't really get a whole lot of resistance from our current 6 members on the board. Put Mr. Arith on there, it's going to be 7-0. I'm trying to think that we need to bring an alternative viewpoint. We have to have some sanity up there.
have you accepted contributions from a union, cannabis lobbyists, or developers?
No, at this point I haven't. I'm actually a little humbled. I've got some of my other candidates who are running, who I've spoken to, and I don't have a lot of money in my campaign donation, but of the about 15 or 20,000 that I've raised so far, it's all been friends, neighbors, family. I'm an attorney by trade, and I know sometimes that scares people, but I've been in that community for 31 years, and 2, 3, 4 of my attorney friends have donated a few dollars. None of them have maxed out, and speaking of, I am kind of humbled. If you drive down my street, the people who know me best, I've been there 21 years, almost every single house down there was willing to put up a sign. Even my friends who don't necessarily agree with my national politics, if you will. But the people who know me best think I'd be good for the city council. You
know, I'm talking about housing a little bit. I'll go back to One Metro West. It's 1,050 units, apartment units that they're building. They're going to back up against the state streets. And I know the people at the state streets, it was really important to them that it be mitigated or it not go in. The money, the fees that One Metro West had to pay was $6 million. None of those fees went to benefit the state streets. Is there anything you think you can do to maybe divert those funds to help the state streets with curbs, pavement, parks, some amenity that kind of mitigates what they're going to have to endure with a 7-story apartment building right near by their neighborhood?
Yeah. Well, I tell you, with Sacramento demanding this high-density housing, and there's only so much that the cities can do to push back. I don't think our city does much at all to push back. But if you're going to burden one area of the city with these large housing projects, it only is fair and equitable that those that have to withstand that burden or endure the impact of it should get some additional benefit for taking on that burden. So I think City Council, when you get in there, when you get into budgeting and you're looking to allocate where funds should be spent, absolutely, the state streets who are there, like I said, having to deal with these 1,000 new doors, they should get some benefit. If the city as a whole is benefiting from this, it should be balanced so it's more proportionately diverted to those who are shouldering the burden, if you will.
And Measure K, the yes vote on Measure K took away the right for the state streets to vote for One Metro West on the ballot. And that was promoted by the entire council to eliminate that. Where did you vote on Measure K?
I wasn't for Measure K, and I'll tell you what, you raise another issue that I've been concerned with, and it's the transparency of our current city council. Now again, I was just a normal citizen. I wasn't granular on all of these issues as they were going on, but now that I've been running, I've been picking up a lot more information. And it's my understanding when this One Metro West was first being talked about and was first making its way through Planning Commission, it was subject to what was then Measure Y, which put any high-density housing issues, they had to go before the public. And it was interesting that as that process was moving forward, rather than be bound by Measure Y that was in place when the whole process started, our city council got behind this Measure K, took that approval authority away from the citizens, if you will, and put it with city council. Regardless of where you come down on Y or K, it seems pretty deceptive and it wasn't very transparent the way that whole process was handled.
Couple comments, a couple issues I want to bring up. One is the city recently voted themselves, the council voted themselves another paid holiday for the employees, the cost of about $600,000 a year. And then another issue the council voted for was planning commissioners do not have to be citizens, so we can have non-citizens planning our city. I just wanted you to comment on those two.
Well, first, I hadn't heard about that planning commission, but that kind of shocks the conscience. You know, you want stakeholders to be involved in making decisions in your community. And I've got nothing against immigrants who are here, but if you're a non-citizen and you're not tied to the community and you're more of a transient individual, it literally, this is the first time hearing that. It kind of shocks me that we would put non-citizens, non-residents on our planning commission making decisions that will eventually impact the character and the nature of our city. So yeah, that's interesting to hear that. On this budgetary issue, I mean, it touches on, I think, one of the bigger issues. You know, recently Governor Newsom, probably because it's an election year or whatnot, decided to tighten his budget, and he's notified the state that in 25, 26, 26, 27, 2 successive years, $25 billion are coming out of the budget each year. Who's going to bear the brunt of that? There's going to be less funds flowing down to the cities. So when you talk about a city council who is content, and I'm all for people making money, and I'm all for, I've run my own business, I'd love to give all my employees all kinds of time off and paid time leave. But the reality is, with the belt tightening that's coming, we need a city council that's less concerned about giving out gifts to their staff and their employee, and more concerned about preparing the city for when we have economic downturns and the things that our city needs to enjoy quality of life, maintenance issues, having a well-staffed law enforcement, having a well-staffed fire department, making sure our parks and recreation, things that make this a great community, those are properly funded. So yeah, those are concerns that I intend to get in and intend to address.
The city's participating in the conversion of 2 hotels, Travelodge and Motel 6. And they're going to create about 188 beds, single rooms, kitchenettes, at the cost of about 105 million. It's about 600,000 or 700,000 per unit. And then it will house government-assisted veterans, homeless people. Do you have any concerns about do our neighbors and the people you talk to have any concerns about what that does to those neighborhoods and about just the overall cost? And is there a better solution than that?
Yeah, and homelessness is a complicated issue, but again, I think that the solution that our city has arrived at is basically just coming straight from Sacramento and implementing it here in our city. And it seems like the solution is throw exorbitant dollars at creating more beds. That doesn't solve the problem. The problem is we have struggling, suffering people who are out on the street, and what do we do to help them? And it's my recent understanding is that even with the beds that we've created and the homeless shelters that we've created, they're not fully staffed, or excuse me, they're not fully occupied. So I don't think the number of beds are the issue. And I think that the spending that is going into create more beds, I believe I had heard that Motel 6, there was probably north of 50 million allocated to the rehabbing of the Motel 6, which worked out to, it shocked me, over 600,000 per door. And that was before we then once it's built, you have to expend money to operate it, to maintain it, and that hasn't even been budgeted for. I think a better approach to the homeless situation is we need to divert that money or use that money to get these people help. And an issue, and this comes from kind of my legal background, I'm able to follow the law and review complicated ordinances and things like that. I think that will help me to be a good advocate for my neighbors. But recently, this Supreme Court decision, Grants Pass, just became law. And it may have finally given a city the tools to enforce their vagrancy laws. And by that I mean if there are repeat offenders and there are struggling people out on the street, maybe they got mental issues, maybe they got addiction issues, maybe even though there's services there, they're just physically unable to avail themselves of those issues. I think with the passing of Grants Pass, we can instruct our law enforcement to enforce our laws, to enforce our vagrancy issues, and we direct these people who are either unable or unwilling to get the help they need. We get them associated and connected with a caseworker, and we follow them, and we get their life better so that they don't need the beds, and we have sufficient beds.
I see. Costa Mesa has about 40,000 dwelling units. This majority council has approved a plan to put up to 17,000 new dwelling units, which will almost all be apartments, which means that Costa Mesa could be 70% renters. Now, how do you balance the need for housing versus the right to maintain some character of Costa Mesa, not change it entirely?
Yeah. And again, that's a difficult issue because here we are in our city having to deal with the dictates we're getting from Sacramento. And it'd be nice if we had a city that pushed back a little bit on those issues. I'm all for development because to have a vibrant city, to have a city that attracts people, that's a nice place to be, you like new buildings and new development. You want to attract that. But you also, and it comes kind of back to the immigrant question we had earlier, allowing them to be on city council, non-residents. You want stakeholders. And although I appreciate that we need apartments and we need housing for individuals, but at any potential turn, my preference would always be home ownership, condominium ownership, and try to maintain the family nature, the family integrity of our community.
Costa Mesa has 40,000 dwelling units. Even if we add 10,000 dwelling units, that's going to be about 27,000 more people. Does our infrastructure, meaning police, fire, road, electricity, water, does it really support it, or are we just a mature community?
We're a mature community. Ask anyone, we're 95% or more built out. And let's just take congestion on the roads. Just traveling now from 405 Harbor down to 17th, or if you're on Baker from the 55 up to Harbor, what used to be a 5-10 minute drive is a 20-30 minute drive. And the problem with being fully built out, I don't care if you wanted to employ eminent domain or something else, there's just no room to widen those streets. So there's that issue. As you bring in more people, and depending on where you site these various apartment complexes, sure, the developer will pay for the initial tchotchkes and the perks that they give, like the additional millions that they're going to allocate to the city for the right to build a One Metro West. But right after that's used, we're going to probably need to site a new police facility over there, possibly a new fire facility over there. All those additions to the infrastructure, one, where are you going to put them? And it's an added expense to our budget.
Mike, is there anything else you'd like to tell us before we end the interview?
I guess, again, I just want to thank Costa Mesa Brief and yourself for giving me this opportunity. And I'll tell you, I've lived here 21 years. I've loved this city. And there's this little thing we do in Mesa Verde every 4th of July. It's this kind of little campy 4th of July parade. And when I was asked to run for city council, I was thinking about it. Should I do it? Should I not? And I tell you, my kids are a little older. We hadn't been part of this little march around the neighborhood 4th of July parade in 5, 6, 7 years. And I went over there to campaign and meet some of the neighbors and talk to them. And it struck me, what a gift it has been and a blessing to raise my family in this neighborhood. And nowadays we're seeing new younger families move into the neighborhood, and I would love them to have the same experience that me and my family did. And so that's what I'm trying to hold on to.
Mike, is there anything you want to speak to people can help you in your campaign?
Yeah, absolutely. My campaign website is www.buley4costamesa.com. And they can email me at mjbuley@buley4costamesa.com. You can go there, check out my positions, get access to my social media. There's a sign-up sheet to take signs, to go knock doors with me. I'm always willing to take a donation. I've learned in a hurry that this campaigning can get a little expensive. But yeah, just go to my website and any support, and most importantly, vote for me.
All right, Mike, thanks for being here, and I'm Don Harper with Costa Mesa Brief.